welcome to Erin's story again. Today is the second time of reading chapter 2 of Anne in the Green Gable. So, let's get started. Chapter 2. Matthew Cuthbert is surprised. It was 8 miles from Avonlea to Bright River. Matthew and his horse passed by farms and orchards. After a while, he began to enjoy the ride. Matthew was tall, with a long gray hair that touched his shoulders and a full brown beard. When he reached Bright River, there was no sign of the train. Thinking he was too early, he tied up his horse and went inside. The only person on the long platform was a girl. She was waiting for something or somebody, and since sitting and waiting was the only thing to do just then, she sat and waited with her all night. Matthew asked if the 5:30 train would come soon. "It's been half an hour ago," the station master told him. "But there is someone dropped off for you, a little girl. She's sitting out there on the bench. I said she could wait inside, but she said there was no scope of imagination outside, and she was a strange little thing." "Little girl?" Matthew could barely get words out. "We're expecting a boy. Mrs. Spencer was bringing from Nova Scotia." "Guess there's a mistake. Mrs. Spencer left our girl here, saying you come fetch her." "I don't understand," said Matthew helplessly. "Well, you better ask the girl," said the station master. "I'm sure she can explain it. You'll be lucky to get word then, though." He turned back to his work. Poor shy Matthew had found a way to walk up on the girl, a strange orphan girl, and demanded to know why she wasn't a boy. She was wearing a very short, tight, ugly yellow dress. Her hair, hanging down in 2 thick braids, was very, very red. Her face was small, white, and thin, with many, many freckles. She had been watching him with her large green eyes since he arrived. Matthew was spared 2 troubles of speaking first, as soon as she realized he was looking for her. She stood up and held her hand. "I suppose you're Matthew Cuthbert from Green Gables. I'm very glad to meet you. I was starting to worry that you'd never come arrive. I decided that if you were left here, I would walk down to the track to that cherry tree and climb up and spend the night. It would be so lovely to wake up in the white cherry blossoms, don't you think? I was sure that you would come for me by the morning, though." Matthew had taken a scrawny little hand in his. He knew he would not tell the child with the glowing eyes that there had been a mistake. He would take her home and let Marilla do that. Besides, he couldn't just leave her at the station. "I'm sorry I was late," he said shyly. "Come along. The horse is over there. Give me your bag." After a short pause, Matthew added, "Please." "Oh, I can take it," the child said cheerfully. "I've got all my worldly goods in it, but it isn't heavy. I'm so glad you came for me, even though I would be nice to sleep in the cherry tree. We had a long ride ahead of us, don't we? Mrs. Spencer said it was 8 miles. I love driving, so I won't mind a bit. Oh, it seems too wonderful that I'm going to live with you and belong to you. I've never belonged to anybody, not really. I was in orphanage for 4 months, but I'm glad that time is over. Everyone was good and nice, but they were lacked imagination. As for me, I could imagine that the girl next to me was a really princess, snatched by kidnappers. I used to lie awake at night, thinking of things because I didn't have time during the day." Out of breath, she stopped talking when they reached on the buggy. They rode in silence until they passed through the orchard palm trees. She broke the branch and brushes against the side of the buggy. "Isn't that lovely? What did the white tree leaning over the world remind you of? She asked. Well, no, I don't know, said Matthew. Why, bride, of course. A bride all in white with a lovely veil. And I've never seen one, but I can imagine that she looks like it. I've never had pretty dress in my life, but it's more to look forward to, isn't it? This morning, when I left orphanage, I simply imagined that I was wearing the most beautiful silk dress. I might as well imagine something worthwhile. It cheered me up right away. Oh, look, more cherry trees in the bloom, she kept talking. Prince Edward Island is so beautiful. I just love it already. I am so glad I'm going to live here. But why are the roses so red? Mrs. Spencer said. I must have a little 1,000 questions already. And for pity's sake, not to ask any more. I suppose I had, but how are you going to find out other things if I don't have any questions? Well, I don't know, said Matthew. Isn't it so lovely or wonderful to think all the things that you're thinking about? It's such an interesting world. But it wouldn't be half interesting if we all knew about something. Everything, wouldn't it? That'd be no scope of imagination. Then, would there? But I'm talking too much? People are always telling me I do. Would you rather I didn't talk? I can't stop when I make up my mind to. Although it's difficult. Matthew, much to his surprise, was enjoying himself. Like most quiet folks, he liked people who talked a lot. They didn't expect him to keep up the end of it. But he'd never expect to enjoy in the company of the girls so much. Oh, you can talk much as I like, he said. I don't mind. Oh, I'm so glad. I know you and I are going to get along fine. It's such a relief to talk when everyone wants to, and not told me not to. People laugh at me because I use big words, but if I have big ideas, you have to use the big words to express them. With all the small turns, they were on the avenue of short stretch of roots and leaning of the eternal living branches and blossoms. Its beauty struck of the child's stump, and clasped her hands together and looked at her dress with awe. They turned onto another road, she said. Oh, Mr. Cuthbert, it's the first place I've been that I couldn't be improved by imagination. It's so beautiful. I can feel it in my chest. It's like an etch. But have you ever been etched like that, Mr. Cuthbert? Well, now I don't think I have. I've felt that ache many times. I shall call the place a white day of delight, and it's really only named for it, you know. They passed a gray house with a pond nearby. Oh, look at the pond, Mr. Cuthbert. I will name it Lake of Shining Waters. Well, most people call it Barry's Pond since Mr. Barry's house. Matthew was trying to keep up the girl, but it was hard to. Does Mr. Barry has any girls about my age? He's got one about 11. Her name is Diana. Oh, she said, what a lovely name. And she's exactly my age. The girl clapped her hands together and laughed. We're almost home now, Matthew said. Is that it over there? She pointed at the house, barely visible through the trees. As soon as I saw it, it felt like a home. Matthew tried not to worry, but he started to worry. He was glad it was Marilla who would tell the little girl had been a mistake. How could they disappoint her? He could not bear to think of excited light going out of her eyes. Listen to the trees and keep up their sleep, she whispered, and lift off the ground. What a nice dream they must have. Then, carrying the bag, all worldly goods in it, was following him into the house. So, this is the end of chapter 3. So, chapter 2. So, I think we're going to meet in chapter 3. So, bye-bye.